Fans, we are live with another edition of the Cheap Heat Productions Wrestling Podcast. My name is Jack Kilby, Executive Vice President of Great North Wrestling. Morris is off today, but we are really excited to have this man in the studio with us today, the virtual studio. He is a very well-known figure in the professional wrestling industry, having successful tenures in WCW, WWE, and the acting world, along with a myriad of new projects that we're going to talk about. And I am speaking, of course, of the one, the only Ernest the Cat Miller. Sir, welcome.
Hey, man, thanks for having me.
Well, we appreciate your time today, and we're going to get into what projects you have on the go as of late. But before we get into that, a lot of the fans are interested in how an individual becomes involved in the pro wrestling industry. Starting with, were you a fan of the business growing up, and if not, what was your pathway into pro wrestling?
You know, I used to watch it when I was very young. My grandfather, who was just like my father, he raised me. My grandfather was a huge wrestling fan. And I think it was TBS, the China 17. It was WCW before it became WCW. It was in Atlanta. Heck, I remember Gordon Soley and Ox Baker. I remember some of the names, but I was so young that I kind of watched it along with my grandfather when I was young. But then as I started to get older, I started to be around a lot of guys who was huge wrestling fans, and that's all they would talk about with people like Thunderbolt Patterson, Ernest the Cat Ladd, Dusty Rhodes. And then Mr. Wrestling number 1, Mr. Wrestling number 2, they start bringing up all these names. But I didn't watch it because by that time I became more of a karate martial arts kind of person. So my TV time was watching Bruce Lee, Jim Kelly, Chuck Norris, or watching those guys. So I wasn't a huge wrestling fan, but I knew of it, because I was surrounded by people who were.
Mm-hmm. Can you talk about how you came to commence training at the famous WCW power plant under the tutelage, I understand, of Dwayne Bruce Sarge?
Man, it was kind of funny, and I'm gonna go back a few steps. I remember in college, my first year in college. And I do something that a lot of people probably don't do, something my mom and dad and grandparents used to tell me not to do. When I moved out on my own, I started doing exactly what they asked me not to do. I started sleeping with the TV on. So, and then I remember every time the TV on, I wake up, the TV was off in my room, and my mom used to say, "Don't sleep with the TV on." So when I went out to college, my first year in college, I remember sleeping with the TV on, and I woke up in the middle of the night, and it was like some scary sounding music, like squeak, 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 squeak. And I remember looking up, and I kind of cleared my eyes and my vision. I looked on TV, and I think I seen the meanest face I've ever seen on TV. And it just happened to be on wrestling. And that person looked so mean. It was Sid Vicious. He was just had that's the meanest face I've ever seen. I mean, it's just stuck in my mind when I saw it. And I went to practice the other day, and I was like, man, I went to sleep. And I woke up to pro wrestling was on. And I swear this guy had the meanest face I've ever wanted to see. So now let's jump a little further. So after pro football, trying out playing pro football, I became a martial arts teacher. And becoming a martial arts teacher, I got to meet a lot of people, had a lot of kids. And one of the kids just happened to be a guy named Garrett Bischoff. And Garrett Bischoff, him and his mom, his mom used to bring him in. He was about 11 years old at that time. And Gary Bischoff's father, as you may know, is Eric Bischoff. So I did not know anything about wrestling. You know, I had spent many years training karate. I was about 24, 25, something like that. So I didn't know anything about who was who in pro wrestling. So when they said Eric Bischoff, I knew nothing about his name. I just cared about teaching his son karate. But this guy came down to my karate school one day, and he had his gi wrapped up on his hand. The gi is the karate uniform. And he asked me if he could spar with the class. And I was like, which happened every now and then. You get a father, a mother that took karate back in the day, and they'll come down and want to work out with the class, not spar with the class. But this guy came down, man, and the only thing I remember, he had this dark black hair and the whitest teeth I've ever seen. And I was like, what the hell? Who is this? Then Garrett told me, he said, that's my father. Then I said, oh, yeah? He said, well, he won't talk to you about working out today, sparring. So I said, listen, you can spar if you like, but you got to sign these papers right here. Just keep giving us clear, making everybody understand that anything happened to you, we're not held accountable for it. So the way we started this karate class out, I had 8 teachers, all black belt, from the age of 24 all the way up to 28, my age. I was the oldest one in there. I was the chief instructor. So I would line up all 5 of my instructors on one side, then I line up the other rest of the class on the other side, and you line up in front of whoever. Most people start on the end. I always finish on the far end because that means they get their best fight by competing with me. I can work and see what they've done. So anyway, everybody started going around, boom, next thing you know, I hear all this noise, like people really getting after each other. So I kind of looked down, and it was this guy, he had a blue, our traditional color for karate was white. This guy had on a damn blue karate uniform with dark hair and these white ass teeth. And I was like, man, well, go ahead. But then I hear something going on the end, and I kind of looked down there, and he looked like he was doing pretty good against one of my better karate instructors. So then the next fight came, boom, the same thing happened. He did it again. He actually beat my second best instructor. And then before I know it, I started looking out the corner of my eyes while working with some of the kids. I'm like, this guy can fight. He could fight. And didn't surprise me. I just didn't know him. I didn't know he was a football. I didn't know he was a pro wrestler. And what he did in that pro wrestling world. But I said, right now, he holding his own against some very good young fighters. So he came in front of me. I bowed, shook his hand. Then I said, go. That's how I started the fight. And I remember, I said, okay, let me show him who I am. And I was doing all these high kicks, flying there. As he would get close to hitting me, I'd flip out the way. I'd jump up and do a kick, just barely touching his head. And I was trying to show him because the rest of the guy, I was like, if he can do that to them, I got to show him that we are a good school. So I had to kind of lay it out there and put it to him. So I was doing all these fancy moves on to trying to show him just how good I was. And then I heard this little voice. This little voice said, come on, Dad. And that was the voice that used to say, come on, Mr. Miller. They usually cheer for me. So when I heard that voice, I looked in the direction of that voice, and it was Garrett cheering on his father. And I remember thinking like, man, I don't want to do that, hurt this man in front of his son. So I had nothing to lose. So I started playing around with him. I let him hit me a little bit. He touched me. I faked at him, but he knew what I was doing. So after it was over, we went to the locker room, and this guy came back, and I asked how he liked the class. He said, man, you're great, man. He said, boy, I can use you on TV. And I said, what? He said, pro wrestling. I said, no, I'm a karate guy. I don't know anything about pro wrestling. He said, but listen, you're talented, you're good looking, you fast, you're a good athlete, you can talk. Said, man, I can use you on TV. So anyway, I said we talked a little bit more. And when Garrett went out, I remember him looking at me with those white teeth. And he said, hey, I want to thank you. I said, for what? He said, I know you could have ripped my head off anytime you wanted to out there, and you didn't. Then he looked at me and he smiled, white teeth again. He smiled. He said, this is my money maker. I remember him looking at his smile, pointing at his finger at his face. He said, this is how I make my money right here, and you did not do anything to hurt me. And I like to thank you because I know you could have. He said, let's go to lunch. But anyway, Eric Bischoff, we met about a year later, talked for a year. Then he eventually got me into this wrestling business. And the first thing he said he wanted to do is get me into the wrestling school, which was the power plant. I didn't know anything about a wrestling school. I didn't know wrestler had to go to a school to learn how to wrestle. So we went to I got into the power plant, and I remember I went into the power plant, and they had some tough guys down there. Because you got to understand, Goldberg was in there. They had the Giant, Big Show, he was in there. It was some huge guys in there, you know, and at that time, NWO guy was in there, Scott Hall and Nash. I knew nothing about them. I didn't know what they were getting ready to do. But I just know it was a hard place to go, and they work your Sarge Dwayne Bruce, work your tail off in there. So I went there, and this is the crazy part, funny part to me when I think back. When I was teaching karate, I was probably making hardly any money at all teaching karate. I just wanted to teach kids. So I probably was making about maybe $2,000 a month. That was okay. But just to go to school, Eric Bischoff and them, they were giving me like $5,000 a week just to go down and learn to play in the ring. I said, this is different. So that's how I got into the power plant. You know, that's the whole story.
That's awesome. When they decided that you were good to go to make your debut, how was that pitched to you?
It was 2 weeks later. That's how long I stayed in school. 2 weeks. I knew nothing about wrestling when I went in the ring. I didn't know any holds. I didn't know. The only thing I knew is just I was in shape. I didn't have time to learn. But what happened, a couple of guys was coming up with this. It was Glacier, Ray Lord, and let me see who else was in there. Vanderbilt, Chris Canyon, Adam Baum, all those guys had this little thing going on where they were doing this like this video type game karate gimmick they were doing. And Glacier would come out with the snow. He did all these karate stuff. So it was to me, it was a karate gimmick. But the only person in there that knew karate was Glacier, Ray Lord. So I remember they used to come down and they were practicing at the gym together, and they were just practicing, and I was watching sometime, and it was karate gimmick. So what happened? Glacier hurt his ankle really bad practicing in the ring the week before they were supposed to debut. So they got ready to debut, and they said, how can we kick off this karate scheme gimmick if we don't have anybody know karate? So I think they went to Eric and the booker, whoever the booker was there, and they said, hey, can we have Ernest come out and just do a few karate kicks for us? And Eric said yes. That's what I want to do. I said yes. So we worked the whole week on what I was going to do. I didn't do anything but just sit in the audience, then jump the fence and went in and threw 3 kicks. And it turned out pretty good. The fans, the fans liked it, but the most important thing, the guys in the locker room went crazy. They came up to me when I did the kick. They said, man, the kicks were great. You know, you a bad guy. We like that. You know, it was really fun seeing you in the ring. So from that point on, they started kind of incorporating me into a lot of different stuff where all I would do is go out and kick people.
And from that development from the fan in the stands deal, you developed a really popular heel persona, incorporating some elements, I guess, and correct me if I'm wrong, of Muhammad Ali with his cadence and some James Brown, of course. How did that all come together? Was that a conscious sort of effort on your part with creative services, or was it an organic thing?
You know, when we first started, they were trying to make me, because there's one thing I could say about the business. I've never been an enemy. I did not dislike people in the locker room. So I got along pretty well with the people in the locker room. They thought I was kind of quiet. You know, it didn't talk much, stayed to myself. So when we first started, they were bringing me out like this baby face kind of karate guy, you know. But as I think about this, WCW at those time was just like being in a university, being in college around all teachers, you know, all teachers, and now you're the only student. So anything you needed to be educated or prepared for in school, you had teachers around you that you could go to and get them. So what I had around me was all superstars. I mean, the low card, let's just say you got the bottom, then you got the mid card, then you got the Hogans and the big guys up there. You guys know who they are. You know, I can't just bring up a name and say they were top guys. To me, might have not been top guys ever, but they had the top tier of wrestlers. And these guys, man, just taught me everything. If I didn't know something, I'll go to Macho Man and say, Macho, what should I do when I come out there? When I leave, he'd say, oh, do this, do that. So one of the guys that was a real big help to me was Scott Hall, because they were trying to figure me out what we wanted to do. And I was so quiet in front of people that they didn't really know my character. But I remember sitting down with Scott Hall the very first time he decided. I went into the catering hall eating. It was time to eat lunch. And I remember sitting in the catering hall of a Monday night show. And I was looking around in there. I saw a table full of Macho Man, Hogan, Ric Flair. I saw all these bigger than life guys that I had watched on TV. So I'm looking at these guys. Next thing you know, I just wanted to eat and not be seen. You know, one of those, let me eat and get out of here. I'm not supposed to be in here. So I looked down, started eating. Next thing I looked up, this guy looked like he was out of some mafia Miami movie. It was Scott Hall standing there. I was like, damn, he's bigger than what he looked on TV. So Scott Hall looked, he said, hey, can you mind if I sit right here? I said, no. So he sat down with me. He got up from their table, came to sit down with me, and we had he just said, hey, man, people like you. You've been doing pretty good here. And I started asking him, how did he get started? And where did you come from? What made you become a wrestler? So I'm kind of interviewing him just to try to not jump up and kick the table over. I was so nervous. But I remember him saying to me, he said, listen, the way you develop your character is you go and watch TV, and the people that you enjoy watching, you take on their personality. He said, you can go word for word, take it from them and make it yours. So once he got up from that table, I grew up watching Muhammad Ali. That was my favorite, Muhammad Ali, you know. how he used to talk, how he used to swag his finger, his swag, his personality. I was from the South, so I got the little Southern sound too, draw too. So I was like, man, I can do Muhammad Ali. I'm the greatest. I'm do this. And then I said, yeah, but what about, I got another guy I like James Brown. I like when he come out there, drop down, do his dance, and they put the cape on him, and he looked like they trying to get him out of there before he hurt himself. And he come back. So I was like, I'm going to try to take on both. I'm going to try to talk like Muhammad Ali and carry that persona and that personality like James Brown. I'm going to dance like James Brown. So that's how I came up with my character. And it was pretty easy to do. It was pretty easy to do. Because people who say I'm quiet, I am quiet around people I don't know. But me around my friends, they say I talk too much.
Well, that can be a good thing in this business. Yeah. One of the things that fans most remember is that your character was definitely entertaining, stood out, right off the bat, and you wrestled like a who's who in WCW at the time. If you had to boil it down to the folks that you most enjoyed working with, that you had the best chemistry with, best matches per se, who would that be off the top of your head?
See, you're trying to put me in a category that a wrestler should never say, I had the best match with this guy or that guy. Because when you say that right there, you're telling a lie. Because that just means you're full of yourself. Because sometimes you felt like you had a great match and people don't like it. Then you felt like, oh, my match was so bad and people loved it. So working with people was the best thing to do for me. It was the best part of wrestling, being able to collaborate with different type of athlete, different types of characters. And I like Michael Duncan. You probably don't remember him.
Michael Clark Duncan?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. The actor? Yes.
Yeah. I like working with him when I did a TV show. But then when I got to pro wrestling, just one time, I left WCW. The reason I brought up Michael Duncan because I left WCW just for a small time to do this movie, and I worked with him. And he just said the best thing you could do is in pro wrestling, you're gonna work with a lot of different characters. He said learn from everybody. Man, so when I got to work with Ric Flair, when I started working with Hogan, when I worked with Prince Arkell, from the top to the bottom, they all were good because they brought something different out of me. And I was being trained by Brad Armstrong. So I worked with Brad Armstrong every night when I first got there. Every night we worked shows somewhere. And you guys, I don't know if you guys know Brad Armstrong, but he wasn't the Armstrong brother. They say he was the most talented one of all in the ring. And he was, man. He was good to work with. So if I had to choose anybody, I would say him.
Very good. In terms of just some of your other opponents, I'll name a couple, and if you could just give me an impression or two, that would be tremendous. Starting with Disco Inferno.
Disco was fun to work with. He was fun. It was all entertainment. We were trying to outdo each other. So he was very, very fun to work with.
Perry Saturn.
Perry, I didn't understand Perry's character. So just afraid of the unknown. And sometimes I enjoy that, because he'll call stuff. Perry used to like to call the stuff in the ring. Me and Disco, we talked outside the ring before we got in there. This is what we're going to do. You dance, then I dance, then I turn around, you kick me in the head. We prepared that. But Perry Saturn was somebody who liked to do these big moves in the ring, flip you over your head, slam you. I mean, he was a power wrestler. So I enjoyed working with him as well.
Now here's a talent, a fellow martial arts enthusiast who some fans may not remember, but those of us who are from the golden area of WCW, so to speak, remember Jarry Flynn, Thunderfoot.
Man, come on, man. Y'all, everybody used to throw that guy in my face because he was a wrestler. He had been there longer than me. He used to wear a black belt. So everybody used to talk about Jarry Flynn, Booker T, and Booker T was one of them. Every time Jarry Flynn come, he said, Jarry Flynn will hurt you, cat. That fake karate you got. Jarry Flynn is a real martial artist. He's been in Japan. He fought in Japan. He'd have fought all over the world with his karate. He said, you just do karate tournament. That's what the locker room used to say about us. So one day, Eric Bischoff said, okay, Jarry Flynn versus Ernest Miller. And so we knew we were going to go. We knew we were going to go. That we knew we were working each other that night, and it was in Atlanta. I'll never forget. Jarry Flynn versus Ernest Miller, written on the board. So we knew we were going to work each other. Everybody, Booker T, everybody wanted to see who was the best better karate guy. Of course, they used to put me down because I used to talk a lot. They used to say Jarry Flynn would kill me in karate. So anyway, so this particular match, we went to the booker, and the booker told us, listen, I want y'all to just get in the ring, kind of almost like sparring, a hard sparring class. You know, I want you guys to throw punches at each other. And then Jarry Flynn said, well, being the wrestler who had been there the longest, Jarry Flynn looked at Eric Bischoff and said, who you want to win? He said, Ernest, cat. So Jarry said, okay. Then Jarry said, how bad do you want me to beat him up? And then Jarry, he said, just move around in the ring and find a way to let Ernest come out on top. So I kind of smiled when he turned back because he was taller than myself. He was taller, bigger, a bigger person, a bigger wrestler. So when I turned and he turned and looked, he said, how bad do you want me to beat the cat up? That means now, not winning, that just means how much, and he just told her he wanted us to go in there and just spar, just work around. And then he turned around and still said, how bad do you want me to beat the cat up? And see, this is one thing I got from Muhammad Ali. I heard a guy say to him, I forgot who it was someone interviewing him one time. So, you know, Muhammad Ali, the best thing about you, we can't tell if you're joking or if you're for real. We can't tell if you're mad or if you're just playing around. And Muhammad Ali said, you're not supposed to be able to do that. That's me. I'm the one supposed to know when I'm mad. I'm the one supposed to feel happy. So I understood that. So when I went to the ring with this guy right here, and this guy looked and thought he gonna really beat me up, and Jarry was a good guy, good wrestler with other wrestlers. So we got in the ring, and man, let me tell you, the first move was something he had never seen before. He said the kick was so fast, just slapped him upside the head. Boom. And then I hit him again. Then he swung at me. I hit him with another kick. Then he swung up. I did a kick called fake low, go to the high. You fake the kick down low so the hands are dropped, then you kick up high. It's a double kick. I hit him with one of those. And then I said, Jarry, go down. And he said, what you going to do? I said, just go down. And I did a spinning back fist and hit him right on top across the head, and he went down. And then when I got up, he got up. I counted 1, 2, 3. And I said, grab me and throw me into the rope. And what? He said, just grab me, throw me into the rope. So when he threw me into the rope, he flipped me. He was like, oh, man, that was great. I didn't know you were going to do that. Then I said, okay, now stomp, put the boot to me. Boom, boom. Now, this match right here was supposed to be a match where I went over. I got the win. I beat him up pretty bad. But at the end, you gave him, after they gave me the 1, 2, 3, the winner, he stumped a mud hole in me and kind of built himself back up for the next person. So that was a fun match. I still remember it like it was today. Matter of fact, Usher Raymond, the singer, is one of my black belt. I was teaching him at the time. So he was there in my corner with me.
Yeah, very, very memorable. Buff the Stuff Bagwell.
What you want to know about him?
Just your memories and working with him. I know you did a lot with him in WCW.
And you also know we had a fight backstage before too, right?
No, actually.
You didn't do your investigation.
Guilty as charged, sir.
Yeah. Buff was like, he was buff this stuff. And he would always buff this stuff. Buff was the kind of guy that would go out to a club every Friday night, Saturday night, and then Sunday or Monday when we get back, Buff had a big fight at the bar with somebody. He was like a real cowboy. He would fight all the time. So Buff was easy to work with. He was fun to work with, but you just didn't know where his head was going to be that day. You know, he come in and he worked with you, and sometimes he come in and, you know, he might have had a two minute drinks the night before, the same day before. So it was hard to kind of figure out what that day was going to be like working with Buff. But other than that, he was just a different person to work with. Fun guy.
Yeah, you hear a lot about, especially with Bagwell, about backstage and other altercations. So that must have been lost in the archive of that. I take it there's no heat still today.
Oh no, man! You know, we were like family. Think about it. Back in those days, it was like a traveling circus. We traveled the world together. We were all family. You know, it's like you with your family and your best friends all at once, training with them. And not training with them, but yeah, training, living, traveling. You did everything with those guys. So every now and then there was a little spick, a little fight, but then you made right up after by doing something together, laughing and working together.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And a man that we lost last year, a true legend in the most legitimate sense of the word, Mr. Terry Funk.
Oh, man, I was scared as hell to work with that old man. Every time I see him walking in the back, he looked like he about to stumble and fall over straight on his face. I've never seen somebody who looked like they just got beat up by a whole team of bikers. He always looked like he was just out of a all-out brawl. That's what he always looked like. And when I found out that I had to wrestle him, I kind of peed in my pants a little bit. Because I did not want to work with this guy. And I most definitely didn't want to do a hardcore, man. Remember, I'm still 3 years in, maybe. And here I am. What is a hardcore match? I mean, what do? You throw trash can, you hit people with trash can, and anything you get your hands on. I said, that's how I used to get whippings when I was young by my mom. So that's all I say. I said, okay, all I got to do is act like I'm my mom, whipping me for doing something she asked me not to do 10 times. And they hit. So I don't know if you ever got, no, you probably never. But a black mom, holy cow, when a black mom whip you, boy, anything she get her hands on, she's swinging at you. If you make her work too hard, it's going to be worse. You know, you get hit with a ashtray. You get hit with a pot and pan that you're cooking with. Don't let her get their hand on the broom. That broom will break across your back. So they whip you with everything. And then when they finish, they cook you a nice meal and say, baby, I love you. Now, here I am in the middle of this ring with this guy who I guess I thought he was my grandma's mom. You know, I'm like, this is just a hardcore match. And the first thing I told this dude, and I said, listen, hit me with everything you want to. Just don't hit me with the trash can. And I said, but let me get my gimmick in. You know, my gimmick was throwing the 3 fingers up. So I went to this dude and I told him, I said, Mr. Funk, you can do whatever you want to me. I'm going to win, but you can do whatever you want. And first of all, I should have known it was a problem. Because this dude was like, I don't know, 60? I don't know how old he was. He wanted me to do all this stuff to him before he got to the ring. He wanted me to beat him out into the parking lot, stand on top of a car, suplex him on the windshield, bring him back in, walk him back in, beat him, throw him over the rail. I was like, man, I'm going to kill this old guy. And then when we got in the ring, I said, the only thing I want to do, so I did all that. I said, by the time we got into the ring where you had trash cans, you had brooms, you had bats, you had everything stroll around the ring, I told him the only thing I want to do is turn to the camera and give me time to throw up my 3 fingers. That's all. Just throw it up. Then you can do whatever you want to me once I turn around. I said, please let me do that. So I hit him, boom, threw him in the ring. As soon as I got to the ring, I looked at the hard camera. He was back behind me. So I looked at the hard camera and threw my 3 fingers up. 6 finger, but 3 fingers, 3 world karate champion. And I tried to pose for the camera. As soon as I got my finger, I swear I heard the loudest boom I've ever heard in my life. It went boom. And I just stood there for a second. I said to myself, I know this damn man did not just hit me with a trash can. And then when I turned around and fell down, he was holding the trash can in his hand with a big dent in it just from the back of my head. I said, man, I'm going to kill this guy when I get up. But, the match went well, though. The match went well. And it was so funny. I wish you saw the look I saw when he hit me with that trash can. I just told him, don't hit me with my back turn. I just heard boom. Then I turned around. He started out holding the trash can in his hand, looking.
That's
oh, man, that was
tremendous.
the funniest thing, man. Yeah, but this guy was tough, man. This guy was a real tough guy.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, what a legend. Gone, unfortunately. A lot of people have spoken about the backstage dynamic in WCW at the time with, and you touched on being around Hollywood, Hogan and Bischoff and that sort of deal with, the outsiders involved in politics, allegedly, and that sort of thing.
Well, let me straighten that out a little bit.
Please.
You partially right about the backstage, but the guy's name that you called, the only time you saw them in the back was when they were coming to get catering, get a little food. They were never really, their locker room wasn't in the back. They had their own. Back then, it was like, think about these guys was major stars. These guys, man, listen, you could go anywhere, you could see big athlete like Shaq in the back just looking for these guys, take pictures with us. They used to call us at that time, we was the stars to the stars. Everybody, I'm going to tell you who I met back in the back. I was standing back there and this guy came over to me. He had 2 kids with me. And I know he was somebody because he was back in the back, behind the curtains. So he said, hey, Cat, can you take a picture with my kids? And then I was like, yeah. So I stood back, put my arm around the kid, and I was like, who you guys here with? They said, that's my dad. Dad said, what is he? He said, that's Roger Clement. I said, what is he, a race car driver? They said, no, he's a baseball player. So I took the picture, and I was like, that's the biggest baseball player I've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a Hall of Famer, pitcher, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Roger Clemens. So you would meet people back there in the stage, man, back behind the curtain all the time. But a lot of the major stars, going back to the Hogan and stuff, they was not back there a lot. They only showed up a lot of the time. They only showed up when it was time to do what they had to do on the screen for that night. Around some, if it was NWO time, you'd hardly ever see them because everybody was gone by the time they came up, came back to do that show. It was at the end of the show.
So you had some great matches, great opponents. You were in a commissioner role. You're doing all kinds of good stuff in WCW at the time. One of the angles or storylines that folks talk about today and debate is the New Blood versus the Millionaires Club. And it was, some people loved it, some people criticize it sort of towards the end of the WCW run. What are your thoughts on that particular piece of business?
It was the business was moving in a different kind of flow. It was flowing in that direction to where they had made up this thing in their mind that all the big name guys, they called it so-called millionaires, did not want, and it was true. It was true. Matter of fact, I'm not going to call in a name, but I'll call one. Hogan wanted to lose the belt to me. He wanted to lose the world title to me because I had that kind of heat. The crowd were with me. So he came up and told me the story. He said, I want to lose the belt to you, Cat. I want you to sneak in, win the belt, and then I want to chase you to get it back. And but then the higher up say, we don't want to do that yet. We want you to, once you win the belt, we want you to keep it for a while. Hogan wants you to lose the belt, win the belt on Monday night, and maybe he win it back on Thursday night. So anyway, I didn't get into that, but these guys right here, working with these guys, man, working with Hogan and working with guys like that, it was pretty good, man. But then all of a sudden, they did not want to work with us anymore. Some of those guys did not want to work because they had big contracts. Their contract paid them, let's say we make $5 million, and for 20 shows. And then once they reached their 20 shows, now you had to pay them just to do an extra Monday night or Thursday night, an extra $150,000 from then on. So those was the millionaires. And then you had these young guys. All these young guys needed to do is to work with these millionaires, these older guys, and get put over or get seen a little bit more. So I was right in the middle there. If the guy that Eric Bischoff wanted me to work a program with, that's working all the way up to the pay-per-view, was a top name guy, millionaire. He said, no, I'm not working with him.
Was that Luger?
I don't know why. What?
Was that Luger?
Yes. How you know? Did you read that somewhere?
I aside from the Bagwell thing, I do my research and know the time frame very well.
Hey, brother, I was just playing. Yeah, it was. And they said, all you got to do, you don't have to work with him then. Just go out and take his red shoes. But I think at that time, if he had did a program, which was fine, it was going to be easy. He was going to be bigger. He was going to beat me, and then I was going to sneak up, catch the 1, 2, 3, and win. And then talk like Muhammad Ali, like I shook up the world. But he just, for some reason, he did not want to work with any of the young guys. So I think whoever was in charge, they just took that and made it into storyline, the millionaires and the young blood. And they put me right in the middle because I can work with either one of them. I used to like working with the young guys. They were fun. Now those same young guys are the ones who's doing most of the business right now. They running the business. So they look at me and like, hey man, he gave me an opportunity to work with him when he came out, and these guys were young. Shane Helms. I don't know if you remember the little Pink Panther group I had with the karate guys. And those had top names in it. And I was coming up with these guys stuff to work with me on, because at that time, I remember a note went out to all the wrestlers saying, if you wasn't being used, be prepared for them to not negotiate your contract or to let you go. So it was a couple of guys there that I really believed in, and I was over doing the commissioner job. So I went in and asked the higher ups, could I use some of the guys for a few things I wanted to do? And it was really just try to help them save the job. and Jamie Nobles were one of them. You know, Shane's Ham, a couple other, and I just can't remember that because they have been 20 years ago. But they remember who I am when I see them. They always thank me for being that person for them when they came into the business.
One fan on social media wanted me to ask you about your experience working with Mr. Vince Russo.
Vince Russo was good to me. You know, a lot of people say that he's this racist person who didn't like the black guys, didn't like the Asian guy. Vince Russo was good to me. He, you know, I did have some of those experiences, you know, from some of the booking guys, you know, well, you know, this a night, we're not gonna have any black wrestlers on this card tonight. And I said, why? They said, because these people here don't buy black merchandise, so we gonna give black boys the night off. Now I've heard that from some other people, but Vince Russo was somebody who came in and worked with me and heard me out, and he did everything to help move my career along.
In terms of that final period where the rumors were that WCW was on the chopping block, about to be sold with the Time Warner merger and the exit of you know, some of the traditional backers of the company. What was your impression at the end that WCW was? Did you believe that Bischoff was going to buy WCW, or when did you know that WWE had purchased the company after the Turner exit, etc.?
With the Eric Bischoff thing, I heard rumors, you know, so I didn't worry about it because it's not my place to worry about that type of wrestling business. So I was ready to go with the flow. You know, I just had a contract, so I was going to get paid for the next 4 years no matter what. And then when WWE came in and they were talking about buying the company, they also said, I had already heard from a couple of guys that they wanted me up there with them anyway. They liked my character. So I really didn't worry about it, didn't think too much about it. I just let the business do what the business did, you know, and prepare myself to go with the flow. And the business turned out to do well for me. I went home for 3 or 4 years, you know, and took care of my kids and family and stuff. I was a stay-home father. That's all I did. Got my check every week. I stayed home, took care of my kids, spent time with them. Then when it was time to go back, Johnny Ace gave me a call and said, hey, Cat, they like you up here. I think you should come up here. He said, why? I said, they want you to come up here. Then it got a little strange when he said, we want you to come up here and do a dark match. So Vince McMahon, I said, Vince know who I am because I know he watched the show. But believe this or not, Vince never watched the WCW shows. He never watched the shows at all. Even during the time we were back and forth, he never watched the show. So when I got there, I worked out and they said, okay, we like you, Cat. We're going to offer you a contract. So first of all, the contract they offered me, I could have made more money staying at home with my karate student or doing something other than put my body on the line for them, my health and the situation that you was in up there. Remember I told you when I got to WCW, that was just like being in a wrestling university with all these superstars around you. Disco, Terry, Taylor, all these guys who have been in the business, they really helped me out because I asked them, you know, what's your opinion? Should I do this? Should I? And they always take time to say, yeah, this is what you say, Cat. We've been here before. This is what you say. Now, when I went to WWE, it was a university too, but it was like a private school. Wasn't nobody around to help because everybody worrying about their own job. And the only person to talk to was the higher up, you know, those guys that was 70 years old, you know, who had been there for 30 years. Those are the only guys I had to talk to answer to. And it was difficult to answer to those guys because I heard so many different rumors before I got there. So I was a little nervous to be alone with them.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So you transitioned to WWE. They obviously knew what a commodity you were, and then it seemed like after they brought you in, didn't really have a lot of direction for you. Were you frustrated by that in terms of?
No, because I was rich. I made a lot of money in the business. I was like, and I know I was talented. I know I was talented. I was sitting there like, hey, here I am. If you want to use my talent, use me. But if you don't, I'm not going to beg you. I'm not going to beg you. I signed a 3 or 4 year deal. I'm going to just wait till my deal is up and just leave if you guys don't want to use me. But see, I saw a pattern. And the pattern was in the WCW guy that were coming in then, they just trashed them. They just trashed them. They didn't really, people talk about Goldberg making a big stand. Goldberg, the first time around, they didn't do a lot with Goldberg. Mm-hmm. The only person Goldberg beat was The Rock. He didn't beat any of the other name guys. So I was not worried about anything else. It's like, okay, once my years is up, I'm gone. But I knew what I was not going to do. I was not going to let people make me do stuff that was against my morals, against my personality, against my belief, against me being a man. I was not going to let anyone do anything that alter that or make me feel anything less than that. So some of the stuff that they were saying, like for instance, when they told me we're not going to renegotiate your contract, I was waiting to see what the excuses was going to be. And the excuse that I heard from there was the writers don't know what to write for you. I was like, wait a minute. They don't know what to write for Ernest Miller? I said, no, the writers don't. Matter of fact, I'm going to tell who it was because I don't give a damn. He ain't in the business no more anyway. When they told me they could not, Vince McMahon really was fond of me, seemed like it. He would always bring me to his office, talk to me, talk about things that I was great at, give me advice, really nice guy. So then, as the writers started saying that they didn't know what to write for me, I said, you know what? That's good. Let me go talk to Vince. Not to keep my job, but just I want to hear from him. What does this mean? And Vince said, well, I'm very, I really like you. I swear on everything. This is what he said. I really like you, and everybody know that I'm fond of you, and I don't want to be showing no favoritism, and but I really like you. But the writer said they can't write for you. And I said, wait a minute. If the writer said they can't write for me, that means they can't write for you, because you the one answer to everything. Well, you should have went to the writers and told them some ideas or talked to me about some ideas. I said, that's not in my place. At least I didn't think it was in my place, because you run the show. You tell me what you want, and that's what you get, It's just like the thing him and I did this scene in the ring with Sable.
Yes.
He told me, he said, Cat, go to the ring and just do your dance and mess around and just let people see you're a happy kind of person. And then I'm going to come out and then I'm going to kick you in your balls. And before you go, I want you to stick your tongue down Sable's mouth. I was like, what? I was like, I haven't even met this lady before. What I'm doing, sticking my tongue down her throat, on TV. What are you trying to get? But I didn't question that. So I went out and as a respect, I told her, I said, listen, I don't want to do this kiss. And I said, why? I said, because I got people at home. I just don't want to do it. And I said, but what I'm going to do, I'm going to turn your head away from the camera and put my face on the other side of your face where it looked like we kissing from the camera angle. And she said, okay, that's fine. But, if you want to, we can. I said, no. So Vince thought enough of me to come out there. And as you know, Vince McMahon had guys that had worked for him for years and years and years that he haven't had 2 or 3 words to say to him.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't find that out till I got there. I was standing in the hall one day when my first day out there, and Vince saw me. He walked over to me, shook my hand, and said, "Hey, Cat, it's good to have you around here, man. Hope you enjoy yourself." And walked off. And the guy standing next to me looked at me and said, "I've been here 4 years, and he had never approached me like that." And so when he approached me like that, and I just said, things are cool. But Vince is not the man you had to deal with. You got to deal with Patterson and the rest of those guys. I don't even know their name. That show you how much I paid attention to it. So when the writers came back and say they couldn't write for me, I went to Vince McMahon and said, they can't write for me, how can they write for you? Because I did everything you asked me to do. You asked me to go to the ring in the Royal Rumble, one of the biggest pay-per-view around. Chris Benoit and I forgot whoever it was, they were still in the ring out. All I had to do is go in. I put myself in this situation. You said, go in the ring. Don't touch anybody. Just dance. Just dance and get your time in. Boom, boom. Then they'll wake up and they'll get up and throw you out. Make the crowd pop. Now, he telling me, he said, if the crowd don't pop, then that won't be good going forward. He said, just go out there and have fun. Just be yourself. I went out there. Boom. The music hit. The crowd went crazy. Slid in the ring. Started dancing. Me and Lamont started dancing. I started doing the crazy dance. And I did it real close to them where they looked like all I had to do is throw Benoit out the ring and win the Royal Rumble. So I made sure I stayed in there, a threat. Boom. Then when it was over, they threw me out. The crowd went crazy. They were laughing and having fun. That's what he wanted. When I came through the curtains on my way to the back, Vince McMahon said at Gorilla, the first thing he said, "Cat, good work, good work." I walked through again, and Chris Canyon was standing right there. Chris Canyon said, "Hey, man, I just wanted to tell you, Vince McMahon popped the whole time you was out there doing that." I said, "Oh, yeah." He said, "Yeah, he was laughing the whole time, enjoying it." So, a couple of months later from there, here they are telling me they can't write for me. And one of the guys told me, they can't write for you, Cat. Listen, they can get anybody over they want to. They got a sock over. If you can get a sock over, you can get anybody over. Now here we are talking about we can't write for one of the most talented wrestlers, athletic wrestlers around. Man, get out of here. But I didn't let it stroke me the wrong way. I just, then I sat down in front of JR. JR came and pulled me in. He said, "Cat, listen, this don't mean it's the end of your career. What you got right now is, all you got to do now is go travel the world and develop your character. And then we're going to bring you back." But you know what? With my experiences up there with these guys and the things I went through up there and the things I saw while I was there, I said, this is not a business for a good person. Mm-hmm. It's not a business for a good person because there's so many wrongs that I saw, man. And some of the stuff that's coming out right now, I've seen it. I knew it was there. That's why I sit back and quiet. As long as they don't approach me with it, I'm all right. But see, I think the way they do it is they make you want to approach them. And then, hey, we might do that if you do this. Mm-hmm. I don't do that.
Yeah, I was going to obviously ask you. I had read that McMahon was fond of your character and your work, but with the lawsuit and the revelations specifically about him and Ace, I take it you never saw that side of their alleged behavior.
I'm gonna tell you what I saw with those guys. I saw that they were really close to each other. Cause once they knew I was upset, Vince McMahon usually called me and said, "Hey, Cat, we gonna leave here. We gonna fly, going to New York. You can fly on my plane." He had his own plane. Well, after the show, he'll just fly back to New York. And sometimes we'll fly back to New York too the next morning, just so because I was commentary then. So we could go into the studio and go over the matches for heat of whatever show you're working on. So I always knew they were pretty close, man, but I just didn't think, because when I met Johnny Ace was like in WCW, nobody really respected him. Nobody really liked him. You know, it's like he would, I can't say nobody, but the people didn't like his job title. You know, he was the top booker. You know, so I've never seen anything like that between those two, but I knew they were really close.
Mm. In terms of what you're talking about, the writers, I believe Vince Russo said that it's a real paradox that if a writer can't find anything to write about a talent such as yourself, the writer should be let go, and not the other way around. Was there ever any discussion after you left WWE about coming back, or was that?
Oh yeah. They told me I could come back. They just wanted me to go. And what I was thinking, since I wasn't a wrestler, they didn't let me use my kicks up there. They wanted me, I said maybe they just wanted me to become a wrestler. So they, you know, maybe they wanted me to travel the world and come up. I was like, but I'm already a character. I'm already talented. All you got to do is place me. Well, and Vince McMahon said this on the flight. And this is what he said. He said, you know, there you have some wrestlers that you could just put in a situation and watch them go. Let them go, and they're going to be very successful. Then you get people like, let me see, like Scott Steiner. You put Scott Steiner out there, you don't give him any guidance or direction, he going to go overboard. He's crazy, and kind of laughed about it. Then he looked at me, and he said right in front of the booking committee, he said, somebody like Ernest, we can put him out there and don't give him anything to say, just let him feel his way through it, and he going to make it good. He going to make it better. So I thought they understood that, you know, they understood me. So that gave me the notion that they do understand that's how I am. Don't write a bunch of stupid lines and tell me, here, go out here and call these lines. I got a unique way of sounding, being, and energy. So let me develop, just tell me the situation you want me in. Just like he did with the Royal Rumble. He didn't tell me to go out there and dance to the left, dance to the right. He didn't tell me that. What he did tell me to go out there and make these people believe that at any moment you're going to stop and throw them out the ring before they, you know, before they come to.
Well, moving on to something we discussed offline for a bit, you had a role in an important role in one of my favorite films of all time, and that is The Wrestler with Mickey Rourke. Wanted to ask you about how that casting came about for you, and your inspiration behind that Ayatollah character, and of course how dramatic the final scene was with yourself and Mickey.
Damn the final scene. Let's talk about the whole movie. This is what went down. It's kind of funny. I still don't know how it worked out that way. I had moved to LA because I wanted to get into the movie business. I wanted to get into maybe acting, a little bit doing something. But in order for me to go out there, I wanted to have some content. So I wrote a script called Behind the Curtains. And it was the story of wrestler, what wrestling was like before they go out the lights, you know, behind the curtain. Man, I had some good storyline, and it was good script. Everybody liked it in Hollywood. Everybody liked the movie. Everybody liked the script. Some people said, we need to get this made. You know, I didn't know anything about getting a script made. I just know we came up with a good script, and the name of it, title of it, was Behind the Curtains. So we pitched it around to a couple of people in LA, and people said they like it. You know, we liked it. We had something we might be able to do. CBS said they liked it. I was pitching around as a TV series, though. So, next thing you know, I decided LA is not the place for me to be. It's it's almost like pro wrestling. That lifestyle, almost like pro wrestling. You people meet you, they want something. People, you got power, they want to show you they more powerful than you. You know, it's like everybody wants something, have something that they use instead of using their own person, who they are, their heart. You know what I'm saying? If I don't like you, I can feel it in my heart. I'm gonna tell you, go fuck yourself. But if I like you, I can feel it in my heart. I want you to feel that I kind of, you know, you're a nice guy, you're a nice person. I like you. So I'm gonna show you those things. In LA, it depends on what you have. In wrestling, it depends on what you can do for me. That's what people go by. That's who they create cliques with. They create the cliques with the people who, and I'm getting off subject a little bit, so you might have to bring me back, but I want to tell you a particular story. When I first got there, you know, I wanted everybody to feel joy because I felt so good. I was making money for the first time, taking care of my family. I'm doing everything I wanted to do. I'm getting a good name in wrestling. So when I would meet people trying to get in, I wanted to let them know, hey, it's okay. You're going to do great. It was just one guy, every time I used to see him, he'll come up to me. He said, hey, Ernest, how you doing, man? I said, hey, how you doing? You working? Every Saturday morning, they had these Saturday shows. So a lot of talent from different areas would come in, you know, and they'll work those shows. So this one guy who worked. He said he got a son and he got a wife. He just got married and he was eager to get in the business. So I used to always encourage him, like, listen, keep doing what you're doing. They're bringing you in more. He said, yeah, but if I can get a contract, if I can sign a contract, man, I can move my family here and we can have this house. I said, just keep working. You're doing good because you're doing the Saturday shows and stuff like that. And I said, you know what? Maybe one day when you come in, maybe I can have them. But I said, you don't want me to smash you because right now they got me beating everybody. But I said, maybe you can come in and we'll do something together. I let Eric know. So this guy was just real nice. And then one day he came to me. And we didn't hang out every time we worked together, but he'll see me and we'll have this small conversation. So this one time he came up, he was so happy, he was smiling. I remember that he had this big smile on his face. He said, guess what, Cat? He said, man, I got my contract. I was like, boy, I said, congratulations. He said, yeah, now I can do everything I wanted to do. But then when he got in, I saw the clique he was hanging out with. It was a clique that I knew what they did. They did a lot of pills. They did a lot of drugs. And I kind of heard that this person who I was speaking of was maybe the supplier, was giving them stuff to get in, to be getting friends with them, become friends with them. And the funny part is, about a month later, they found him dead in the hotel. He OD'd. He had just had his contract money. He had all these dreams and goals that he wanted to do. And that kind of stuck with me a little bit. It kind of scratched me in an area to where it made a little scar, because I kind of really liked this guy. I was on this team, you know, I prayed that this guy, I wanted to see this guy win. You know, I want to see this guy win, get the money, and get the family where he wanted to do, and now live the life he wanted to live. Because to me, even though I was living that life, I didn't pray for that life. I didn't ask for that life. It came to me. So I don't understand when I go back and try to I was happy. I appreciate it, but it wasn't something, a life that I wanted. Not that it wasn't the lifestyle that I prayed for. I didn't pray to be a professional wrestler, to be on Monday night, the biggest shows. I didn't pray. I used to pray to be like Bruce Lee, kick 100 people in the head, you know, every night, be able to do all this karate stuff. That's what I wanted to be successful at. But God felt need to put me somewhere else, and he put me in that light. And I was happy and I was thankful. So I try to give back to everybody. I try to give back to people, you know. And this guy was one of the guys I wanted to see win, but the clique he chose was not the clique that will feed you with the good stuff, you know, to tell you, hey, now you get in shape. Now you take care of your family. Now you put your family first, you know, and you start working and working and working. It was like pure, you know, he, you know, a couple of months later, he was dead, and that same crew was still doing the same thing, still working.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. In terms of what we were initially looking at there, discussing was the wrestler and your role in that epic film.
Yeah, but like I said, when I went there, I'm glad you brought me back to that. Remind me of that. When I went to LA, I had this script. I wrote the script. I pitched it around. Boom. I did not like LA. I didn't like what I just explained to you. So I left LA, came back home. And about 2-3 months later, I get a call from my manager. And my manager said, hey, they shooting this wrestling movie in New York. And they want you to come up and read for a part. They need a wrestler who can act and a wrestler who can wrestle for this part. And I was like, man, and I was a little mad. I thought about it. I was like, I wonder how this guy get his movie picked up, and they didn't pick mine up. And it's similar. It's the same thing. It's about a story. It's about a story of a wrestler, life story, not the wrestling story, behind the curtain. Mickey Rourke was an old wrestler that went through life and lived life the way he lived life. It was different from what he was in the ring. So much different that this guy wanted to die in the ring. Mickey Rourke wanted to die in the ring. If he was going to die, he wanted to die in the ring. Not at home, but in the ring. That's the movie. Man, that's the story I wanted to tell. So when they called and asked me, so I hesitated a little bit because I didn't know any name person that was in. I didn't know any actor. And then the thing was, they wanted me to pay my own way out to audition for this movie because the budget was low. It was a small budget movie. So my girlfriend then, she's my wife now, Kalita Miller, she told me, just go check it out. Just go out there. What's a ticket? So I said, man, let me call somebody who know better. So I called my friend Goldberg. I said, hey, Goldberg, they want me to be in this movie, but they want me to fly. Oh, man, are you crazy? Are you crazy? If they want you out there, tell them to fly you out there. Tell them first class and get you this. So I hung up the phone, and the first thing I did, I called the producer back and said, okay, I'll be out there. I'm going to pay my own way. So I get out there, and the first thing I do, I walk in this room, and I see this strange-looking guy. He looked like a nerd. He doing this to my face, asking me, he said, can you read this right here? I read it. I read the part, and he's walking around looking at me. I'm like, who the hell is this dude? Then he had he said, that Darren Aronofsky. He one of the top directors around, underground director. So I never heard of him. Say, yeah, he did a Black Swan. You ever heard? I was like, no, I never heard of that. But when he finished, I finished reading. He said, well, I tell you what, I like you. We got a guy coming in. I want you to read with him. So I overheard who was starring in the movie. And I thought the movie was low budget. I started talking to the second director in charge. I was like, I thought this movie was like a $50 million movie. He said, no, it was a $50 million movie, but we had to get rid of the star who was family was going to take over. And I said, who is that? He said, yeah, the part is going to be played by Nicolas Cage. Then he said, yeah, but he said it was too much work for him for a movie right now. And, you know, when he left, his family had put in all the money behind the movie. So when he left, them $45 million went with him. So who they had me waiting on was another guy, the other starring guy that was going to play in this role. So I'm sitting there in his office there. He was a little late. So soon the door opened, I looked up and I looked in this guy's eyes and I looked at his hair and his face and his rough looks. I said, DDP, what are you doing here? And then, no, I'm just playing. And then he said, yeah, Ernest, this is Mickey Rourke. Mickey came over and he said, here, read this part with him. So I read the part with Mickey. When we talked, Boom. Then when it was over, Mickey looked at Darren. He looked at Darren. He said, this guy's a natural. He's a natural. He know how to talk to people. He got good vibe. Get him. Let him have a part. Mickey went right to work for me. Boom. They gave me the part. Nathan, they said, hey, can you stay another week or two? I said, why? He said, we want to see what Mickey looked like in the ring. We want you to look at him because you got to help him look like a wrestler too. So I was like a wrestler? And then I looked at his body when he walked off from me, and he was small frame, muscled up, no ass at all. And I was like, man. And I was like, how you gonna look at me? And they told me to go and get fat. They said, we don't want you muscled up. We don't want you muscled up. We want you to go and get fat. So I went home and I was eating everything. I was happy, man. You should have saw me. I was eating donuts, hamburgers. I was eating everything. Boy, I was like, man, this is the life, I ain't got the diet. Because they told me, they said, we want you guys to look like retired wrestlers. But Mickey Rourke, when they got muscled up, he came back. He was like muscled up. I was like, God dog, Mickey. And then I stood outside the ring after they told me I got to make him look like a wrestler. I looked at him running the ropes. And when he hit the other side of the rope and he came to this side, then Darren said, yeah, you got to make him look like a wrestler. I looked at him. The first thing popped in my head was my 2-year-old grandson. I was like, hell, my grandson can run the ropes faster than that. How in the hell man, y'all need to pay, how much money I'm getting paid? Darren started laughing. I said, how in the world I'm going to work with this guy and this? And Mickey overheard me. He came out. He said, listen here, motherfucker. I'm going to outwork you. That's what you see. When this movie done, I'm going to outwork you. That's when I looked at Mickey and said, wait a minute. This guy don't know who I am. He don't know I got deadly hands. I can kick his damn head off if I want to. But for some reason, the way he is, he can get away with stuff like that because he's such a nice guy. He just believes in himself. Man, and working with Mickey was like, man, that was the best thing ever. That was just like working with a wrestler that you wanted to work with for like 6 weeks. Every day. He was nice. He was always on time. He always wanted to thank you for working with him. And it's a part in the movie that you go back and watch the part to where Mickey and I was in a match. Mickey hit me and tossed me over the rope. Then Mickey ran and hit the rope. He did a swan dive over the rope onto me on the outside. Now, let me tell you something. Those guys owed me about $8 million for that. Because without that part, the match wouldn't look real. And then they told Mickey, we cannot do this. We cannot do this if we have to use a stunt double, which he had one there. Everything else that you saw was a stunt double. So this one move, Mickey wanted to do it. So I remember practicing with him, and the whole time he'll hit me, boom, from the back after I'd hit the referee and knocked me outside the ring. And then I tell Mickey, I said, Mickey, hit the rope, and all you got to do is come and get clear the top rope, and then I got you from there. And once you land, I got you. I'm going to take you and I'm going to put you down softly. So just do it. Nathan, we going through, I hit the rope, I go outside, Mickey hit the rope, I'm laying down on the ground, not trying to look because I don't want to be watching him and make it look fake if I'm looking at him do it. So it's about timing. It's about me hearing that rope and then looking at him, watching him come over and catch him. So I saw Mickey's feet running across, and every time he got to the rope, he'll just stop. I said, Mickey, let's try it again. He hit the rope again. He started running. I'm looking for him. He just stopped again. And it's hard. If you never had to think about this, it's pretty high up from the top of the ring rope to down on the floor was their flat floor. That's pretty high up. And it take a little time and a little courage to just to dive over to this. So to me, so it was, he said, I'm going to do it. I'll do it. So that was practice. So when we started shooting, we had a crowd. and it was time for that spot. I told Mickey, I had a long talk with her. I said, Mickey, this spot now, all you got to do is clear. I promise. If you can come over the top rope, I'm going to catch you, make sure you're safe. Even if you come head first, I got you. Trust me. He hit the rope, time car. I go outside. He hit the rope. He stopped again. So I jump up on. I said, man, listen, what's wrong with you? You told me you were going to outwork me. He said, outwork me. This is the spot right here. Darren told me if the people don't believe me at the end of the movie, the whole movie is no good. Because if they don't think I care for you when you on the rope and I'm telling you not to jump, not to do it, if they don't believe me, they're not going to believe the whole movie. So he put all that energy on me. I said, now I'm telling you, if you don't come over that rope to me on the outside, then the movie going to look fake. We can't use a stunt double. We to practice this. So next thing you know, we go through the spot again. I hit the floor outside. I see Mickey running back to hit the rope, to come across, his feet coming towards me. So I started to sit up. And as I sit up, the feet kept going. Then when I looked down, I was never so happy to see his face coming over the rope. So as I saw his face come over the rope, I reached up and grabbed him, and I laid him down, and then I fell back into the gate and flopped around, made it look like he killed me. They said, cut. Everybody went crazy. I was just happy it was over, so I went to my room. Next thing you know, hit the door, come up, boom, it's him and his manager. And I'm talking to my girlfriend, my wife now. He get on the phone, he said, who you talking? I said, this one. He said, let me tell her something. He said, man, he said, excuse me, miss. He said, this guy right here is smart. He's a great person. Man, I just feel so good. Mickey was so happy that he finished that part like that and that I helped him out there. He said, man, I'll do anything you need. Just let me know. Anything you need, let me know. And he said that. So we had a good time, good rapport making that movie. Even now when Mickey see me, first thing you do is give me a hug and say, I love you. And we don't see each other all the time. It's just from that moment we connected. And that movie, man, the movie tell a good story, but behind the scene of the movie, tell an even better story. Because it was some work these guys had to do to get in and make this movie seem real. When people tell me this is one of the best movies they ever see, it's a lot of blood, sweat, and energy and stuff, man, that we had to gather up and put together just to make this movie.
Yeah, very, very real. And that chemistry that you're speaking of, that definitely translated on screen 100%. Kat, you have been tremendous this afternoon. This has been an excellent interview. I very much appreciate how generous you've been with your time, but I want to get the fans that are watching up to speed with the current goings on in your world, including, and if there was ever a guy that needed a podcast and has so many great stories about wrestling and life, it's you. So can you tell the fans about all of that good stuff you have going on?
Well, right now I did start a podcast. As you can see, it's called the Cat's Corner Podcast. We on YouTube. You can follow me at Ernest the Cat Miller on Instagram and social media, Facebook and everything. We've released a few, but I got Goldberg, Bret Hart, Hogan. I got some of the new guys today out there. So these are just, my podcast is something to where, like talking to you, I felt like I'm just talking to a friend. It's not interview. It's like when I talk to Goldberg, I'm not sitting there trying to get him to say something on my show that's going to get me a lot of clicks. This is just like me having conversation with friends, with good friends. So my podcast is fun. We try to stay away from the negative stuff. I'm not like an old wrestler that's going to put down the new wrestler because they're a little different than me. I'm the one I want to be there to uplift the young guys, to let them know that, hey, the older guy, we're watching you guys, man. We enjoy you guys. So I'm there, man. The Cat's Corner podcast is going to be great. I want to have fans on there that can come and ask questions and maybe some giveaways, so looking forward to kicking this off. And we up and running right now. So, you know, bit by bit, you go to my social media, you can kind of see some of the short version that we put out so far.
And you're on Apple. Are you you're on YouTube? I'm sorry. Are you on other platforms?
We on YouTube right now since we just starting out. We rolling the ball to see where I want to go, you know. But I've been offered to go the red dot to go across everything. But right now we just stand within my social media and my control on YouTube because, like I said, when some of my friends come on here, I want to be able to talk about everything. And one thing I'm not going to do is I'm not going to just have people on there just to say stuff that is not true just to get clicks. You know, if somebody say something on my show, I'm going to hold them to it. I'm going to call it on them if I feel it's not true. If they're not being totally honest, I'm going to let them know, listen, you don't do that on the Cat's Corner.
Awesome. Well, we are definitely going to stay in touch, and we'll do our best to put out the word about your podcast, because my goodness, the entertainment value given your experience and all the numerous stories that you have, I'm sure it's going to be a major success. But I want to thank you again for coming on the Cheap Heat Productions Wrestling Podcast today, sir. It has been a pleasure.
Hey, brother, thanks for having me, man. And, you know, anywhere I make connection, man, come on and support the Cat's Corner because I want to entertain people, too.
Absolutely.
All right.
Well, fans, that's it for this edition of the Cheap Heat Productions Wrestling Podcast with the legendary Ernest the Cat Miller. Until next time, take care, everybody.